So, Tarant LeBlanc.
In all honesty, I have not made much headway. Have you?
um, I am apparently okay. So I guess it might be all the 50 Shades of Grey books that I've now encountered, but I've become a bit of a masochist, I believe, because I started the Apple version because I wanted to see how it compared.
Wait,
So,
Apple version?
yeah, the one you're reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And?
And but I'm also still reading the other one, so I'm doing both, and I haven't got very far in either. But yeah, they're very different.
Okay, am I missing out on a lot or like,
Yes and no. The Apple version. I guess I should have done this by translators' names, but I'm just gonna call it the Apple version. So the Apple version, it's it's much it's much more readable, but some of the stuff that he does in that version, I don't remember because I'm only in the Warwick part, but I'm almost done with the Warwick part. But there's certain things like I remember him getting his son to like fight. I don't remember in the book version the son having to take the dead Moor and repeatedly stab him, and then Warwick thrusting his face into the blood so therefore he could be baptized in blood, as they worded it. I don't remember that in the book version. That's in the Apple version.
okay, because I was just about to say that I remember that.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
it's
that's
much it's
interesting.
much different. I see what they're talking about with the when they talk about the discourses. I know what they mean now. So it's not so much in the Warwick part. It doesn't happen as much, but later on. So like in the book version, he's on his travels. He's in Greece. He just finished a battle there. He's with a woman that the Grecian woman that he loves, the princess. And they meet a guy, and the guy no, it's one of the what the Apple book calls the Moors. It's one of the villains that they've captured, and the villain is for pages and pages. I guess he's not. I guess he's a villain in the story, but for pages, is talking about what it's like to be a knight. So it's still the same idea. So Tarrant, like it's implied that Tarrant agrees a lot with what he's saying, but not everything when it comes to the Christianity versus Islam. But it's a like a giant speech, and it's not the only giant speech that's in the book version. So that's what they're talking about. There's these like passages of speeches that don't affect the actual plot of the story, where the Apple one focuses very much on the plot.
Okay.
So that's what he's trimmed down. So it's still the same, but it's told differently too. It's when you were talking about how violent it was, I was like, they're stabbing stuff, but it didn't go into details. Where now, if I continue with the Apple one, it's probably brutal.
Okay.
It's,
Okay, so that is so strange. That is so different. So the discourses that you were just talking
right.
about, I mean, I keep thinking about philosophical discourses. I mean, so it's not that,
Oh,
right?
I guess it could be because it's still the guy who's captured. It's still his philosophy. So it's
Okay.
and it, there's been other ones, and I'm sure there's going to be more. And since I wasn't attuned to it, I was just reading. I didn't realize like how different it was with the versions. Um, but yeah,
Okay.
that's what it is. So
Okay.
if and like even in the intro, because I read the intro to both the Apple version as well. He says if you want a more complete version of what the actual text is like, he specifically mentions the translator for the book that I'm reading.
Okay.
And I don't know how he seemed to veer so hard in certain sections, but yeah, it's very. So if you want to just read the story, and it is modern. I remember asking if it like felt modern, your version,
Mhm.
and it does very much so. So he's right. If you want just kind of the story and see what it's like, Apple version, way to go,
Okay.
or Project Gutenberg, whatever that version.
Okay, so having read a little bit of both, if you had to choose one, which would you choose?
I mean, I convinced you to read the whole 1001 books. I want I want as close to the original thing as I can get. So, me personally, I'm glad I went with the book. But if you just want to read the story and get a feel for the story, or say you've read the book, the Apple one's the way to go. It's very readable. It's very. I don't want to say the other one's not enjoyable, but the Apple one is more enjoyable.
Oh, okay.
Because I when I think about which one I'm going to read, um, I keep leaning towards the Apple one. But I
Oh,
do want to finish personally
okay, I see.
the book.
Hmm.
But it's the book is so huge, I can't really just carry it around. Whereas the other one I just have on my phone, so I can be sitting and the baby can be playing, and I can just read some of it. So I feel like I've gotten a lot further in that one quicker because it's always on me and I can pick it up wherever.
Hmm.
Kind of seeing why Colby's so into all those she doesn't like a tangible book. She wants to read everything on her phone. I'm
Oh
kind of
my
kind of
goodness.
seeing the appeal of it a little bit.
I mean, I don't mind electronic devices, but I find that my phone is too small. I mean,
Right.
so like if I read on a device, I like my iPad.
Right.
Okay,
But yeah,
interesting.
I just put it on. I just went with the phone, and then um,
Am I missing out on a lot? You would say, or did what they take out suffice for it all?
I don't think you're missing out on much. Like I said, it's two different. It's like if we both look at a picture and we get pens and paper and we both describe it. It's the same picture, but it's going to be very very different. Where
Okay,
it's literally you can tell two different people took two different routes.
okay.
But I don't think you want to hold another 600-page book for hours again.
Oh no, I agree. I don't usually like to read abridged versions of books or stories,
Right.
but it seems like it would be okay in this
Right.
instance.
I don't even
Okay.
know how abridged it is because it's not like you see the abridged versions of like the Count of Monte Cristo, where they're like 300 pages, but the actual book is what, like 1500 or something. So it's not like because even the Apple version, it's still long. It's still got a lot of stuff in it. It's just a different route. Yeah.
So we were not going crazy then when we were describing the different events
Mm-mm.
that were occurring.
And so yeah, so if I keep with this route, I'll eventually see what you were talking about, and we can piece it together. But
So did you say that as far as you've gotten the Apple version is more violent?
yeah,
Okay, because that's why I kept asking you, and it didn't seem like you thought so.
right.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I want to at least get to the part where, because I know what battle you're talking about, when the jousting, all the jousting, and
Yes.
they talked about the jousting, and Tarrant stabbed this or cut off that, but like I said, I feel like I would remember in the book version the bathing in blood part, or maybe just how he tells it. Maybe if it was in mine, he's like they maybe just said it, like just and then Warwick bathed his son in blood. Where this one, it was
Mm,
like literally they got the body into the room and so it was much more detailed. Which
okay. Yeah, I still remember that part. I've been quite disturbed by it. I mean, but you know me and those types of scenes. But I am very intrigued now about the was it the bed we were talking about with
so yeah, so that it was mentioned in the intro of the other one. So the needle in the bed thing is in this book somewhere in the other version, because out of everything he could have mentioned in the introduction, he talks about the needle with Philip in the bed and how Cervantes did something similar to Don Quixote,
gosh, it's been
but it's
so
like
long.
a different. He like played on that needle in the bed. So whatever this needle in the bed thing is, it's very important,
Okay. Well,
or it means something.
okay. So I guess I have not gotten to it yet in the Apple version
I guess not.
because I don't remember that.
Yeah, I hope Apple version. I hope the way he's been telling the story, he really clears some stuff up because I am so confused by the
Did you
needle
say
thing.
that you're halfway through in the book?
I said I'd like to be halfway through. I am not halfway through.
I have a feeling. Okay, so this book is not going to take us a year. I mean,
No.
I know that we've said that several times.
Right.
But just because of all that has happened,
Right.
I almost feel like I don't think it's one of those books that I need to restart. I mean,
Mm-mm.
all right, I'm just gonna go with it and get certification from you if I need it. But I guess it's not populated with so many characters that I would need to
I think that's why.
restart it like those Chinese epics.
I think that's part of the reason the restarting of those was important, because there was so much. Where this one, there's a handful and they're here and there, but and each chapter seems to be its own story. Like it builds on the previous story, but it's like its own separate thing. The other thing in the intro I thought was interesting was
The intro in the book or
in the Apple version.
Okay.
Is about, he mentions what's it called, La Celestina, or I don't know how it's pronounced, but that's the next book on the list. It's that Spanish play, and apparently he was comparing Tarrant and I guess his love interest to that book, which was like, apparently that's like a great love story or something, and so it's all kind of like tied together, which I thought was very it definitely makes me want to continue on. And since we've started, I like seeing how everything has been building atop each other. Like how, I don't want to say like the shoulders of giants thing, but that's what it kind of feels like. We're like, I like seeing how everything just builds and how the progress is being made so far, even though we're not very far.
Right.
But yeah, I wasn't disappointed that I started the Apple one.
Well, good.
I feel like it's a good.
Are you going to continue to read both?
Maybe until I at least get to figure out what this needle thing is about. I
Okay, now you have me very, very
don't know.
curious about it.
And like I said, maybe it's obvious. Maybe I just misread it. Maybe I just didn't pick up on it, but like a nuance or something, or it might be so specific to that time period that's why I'm just not.
Okay.
Yeah, the needle thing. And like I said, it mentioned in the intro. So
Okay. And you said that Cervantes used it in Don Quixote. It's been so long since I read it that I don't remember.
yes, yeah. I don't remember exactly how he worded it, but he brought up the needle thing and he mentioned Don Quixote.
Okay.
So eventually we'll get to that one and we'll be able to compare further. But
Yes.
But yeah, so apparently it's important.
Okay.
I don't know.
Would it be too aspirational to say that we will try to finish within the next 2 weeks? Who am I kidding? I'm not going to finish in 2 weeks.
I might be. I
With
might be
everything
able
going
to.
on.
Might be able to crank it out in a month or so.
Okay.
But I don't know. We say this and then
Okay.
life gets in the way, but
It always gets in the way.
that's all right.
Okay. No, like it would be great if you could read both versions, but I mean, just knowing just how. I mean, at least when it comes to books, you seem very, very aspirational.
Crazy,
So,
I think. Yeah.
okay, and masochistic, perhaps.
Yes.
Did you say that there's only one Pines version of Tarrant, right?
I think so.
I think that's why I am reading the
I think so.
Apple version, which I don't mind at all,
But
especially after what you've told me.
I thought it was interesting when I went to find the Apple one on the Apple Books app, whatever thing. You could get the book version, but it was like $6, which I thought was interesting. That one was available free, and then the other one was available for purchase.
Oh, I didn't see that. I just downloaded it from Apple, I think, the free version.
Okay.
Speaking of love stories, did you say that you finished the second book of 50 Shades Free? I don't know.
50 Shades Darker.
Yes.
It's a misnomer because there was nothing darker about that book. I don't know what the darker came from.
This is the second one, right?
Yeah, it didn't feel darker.
Did you finish it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What are your final thoughts?
I don't know.
Do you see the hype? Do you understand the hype?
No. And I know she's setting up this big plot twist where they're going to be in danger the next book, I guess. I don't know.
But the second book wasn't as popular, right, as the first.
I have no idea.
From my understanding.
I guess, yeah, the first one, I guess, was so popular because it was so shocking. And then in the second one, it's not darker. I don't know.
And
But,
there's a third book, right?
yeah, Freed. I get there eventually.
So you're thinking of...
Yeah,
I
eventually.
mean, you might as well because you've
Yeah.
listened to 2 already.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm almost done with New Moon. It's just the second one.
No way!
I'm gonna look back on this and be so embarrassed by this. Almost done with that one, and then I'm waiting for an audio version of Romeo and Juliet to come in. So
The true Romeo and Juliet play,
Yeah.
right? Or
yeah, this one I believe the version that I requested. I think it has like a full cast, but it's the actual play. I don't know how it's going to be. I don't know if they're going to say the names or if you have to pick up the voices. I don't know. We'll see when it comes in.
audiobook, you said?
Mhm.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
What brought this about? Because I didn't know that you were.
she tried to make. There's a lot of Romeo and Juliet stuff in New Moon, so I was like, well, let's just keep going.
Why not?
Because I don't know. I don't know why I do this to myself.
Okay, now you know that since you've started all of this, you have to finish. I mean, just knowing how you are, right?
Yeah, I'll finish. But I don't know. Apparently I said this and Colby went all aghast on me, but I was like, I might be Team Jacob. And she was like, no, and like all this stuff. And I was like, but Edward's so like moody. Like he's too much for me. And she started like trying to tell me something about Jacob. And I was like, stop, I don't want to know. Like, just let me get there. So apparently, because when she found out that I was listening to it, she was like, oh, I hate this one because it's all about Jacob or whatever. Like, I don't think it's so bad. I'm not like crazy about the story. It's okay. The book's okay. But I will say she was very successful at, there's a portion in the beginning-ish, in the first half, I should say, where she's building the relationship between Jacob and Bella. And she did a really good job before the werewolf stuff of building like a high school relationship, like, and not even like a romantic one, just building a friendship. I mean, obviously Jacob has the crush, but she did a really good job at like making them seem like they were just really high schoolers trying to do things without their parents' permission and doing homework. I will say that part was really well done.
Okay.
But now now Edward's back and whatever.
So, so you have to explain to me, how did the 2 competing camps come into being? I guess like Team Jacob and Team Edward.
I guess it's this one. It starts with like the prologue is about Romeo and Juliet, and then they talk about Romeo and Juliet, like she watched it with Edward before he disappeared, and then she's trying to build like the love triangle, and then
Okay.
there's the bulk of the book is that Edward's gone. Bella does something where it's misconstrued that she died, so Edward is going to go try to basically get himself killed, a la Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously didn't happen. There's 2 more books, but
I mean, but they're both competing for Bella's love, right? I mean, is that the gist of it?
Jacob has the crush, but Bella is enamored with Edward.
Okay.
Moody, broody Edward.
Okay, so why is Colby attached to Team Edward,
I don't
I guess?
know. She started mentioning it. Apparently, Jacob does something weird, and she doesn't like it. I don't know. I stopped her because if I'm gonna do it, I might as well just be as surprised as anyone else reading it for the first time. So I told her no more. It's conversation I never thought I'd be having with my wife. That's
No, I actually love it, actually. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, so almost done. I should be done soon. I'm on the last disc or something. Almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
How has the listening experience been? I mean, do they do a pretty good job of narrating it?
I think so. I'm not annoyed by it
Okay.
like I was other like the Crawdads book. I didn't like the narrator that much. How she did
Okay.
the main character.
That's the one drawback about audiobooks. I mean, just the narrator can just ruin the whole experience, I
Right.
guess. And I mean, it could be a very good book, but if there's something wrong with the narrator's voice or how it's delivered,
Right.
it's just
Because it's a different
ruined.
experience, so it adds to or takes away from the experience. So
Yes.
yeah, I agree with that. I don't worry as much about the hearing of the intake of breath. I don't listen to it with headphones, so that's
But that
probably
doesn't
why.
bother you.
Well, I
Okay,
listen to it in my
so
car, so and it's also stuff. It's not like heavy stuff I'm listening to where you gotta like really like pay attention. It's
mhm.
them scurrying off either to their red room of pain or Italy to save Edward, and it's just kind of
Mhm.
background.
It's just funny because yes, I guess I do listen to it with my earbuds, but it's I can't focus on anything else if I hear, the breathing in and just it's so distracting.
Yeah.
I just cannot do it. I have abandoned many audiobooks as a result. I mean, but if it works, it's just a wonderful experience.
Right. I hope I hope I'm not hope I'm not doing breathing in too much on this thing. I'm self conscious.
And you did say that the next book is a play.
Hmm.
Okay. I don't know why. I reading plays just I mean, I'm an introvert, but like and I love to read, but there's just something about reading a play on my own all by myself. I don't know what it is. It doesn't seem right. Or it feels like it's so one-dimensional since, you know, you you just always expect that cast of players, I guess, and
So what you're hinting at is this short play is the one that's gonna take you another year. It's
I have a feeling. Yes.
well, yeah, I
Do you
don't.
know how long it is?
It's not too long. It's, play size. I don't know.
Well, that doesn't mean anything to us
Yeah,
because it can take, quite a
yeah,
while.
it's not too long.
Okay.
So
I guess what I'm trying to say is I find that reading plays are difficult is difficult for me because I find the flow disturbed by having to see who is vocalizing what and when and it's just
see that doesn't bother me. And there's
really.
some plays that I prefer the actual play over like watching it. Like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather read it than watch it, even though I mean it's the same exact words and the movie's really well made, but reading it I enjoyed it.
Well, why did you enjoy the play
I don't know.
more than the
It's probably been like a decade since I've read
Mhm.
it, but I just remember that. I remember that specifically being like, huh, like that's more enjoyable for me.
So you don't mind like just reading what one person is saying and then having to focus on who who the next character is and then oh my
Mm-mm.
gosh, okay.
But I guess I'm also very much a movie person as well, so maybe that's why it doesn't.
I have to eventually reach a point where I just get so fed up with myself and say, okay, that's it. I am going to finish this come hell or high water.
Well, apparently I have to do that to myself twice now.